What's up, dude? Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I don't think I really have anything new to report. I did get my cartilage pierced up here. It's very small, you can't hardly see it, but if you guys want to see more about that, it'll be in my vlog that I'll have posted for this weekend. The gal was very nice and she let me film the whole thing. So, I should put a trigger warning in that video now that I'm thinking about it. But other than that, I think that's about it. So we are going to jump into our case for today, in which we are talking about a cold case because someone asked if I would do more of those. So this is the cold case of Jill Dando. Jill Wendy Dando was born in Ashcombe House Maternity Home in Weston-super-Mare, Somerset on November 9th of 1961. Her parents were Jack Dando and Winifred Mary Jean Hockey, who passed away from leukemia at 57 years old. Her brother Nigel, who was about 9 years older than her, worked as a journalist for BBC Radio Bristol. When Jill was 3, doctors found a hole in her heart that was blocked by a pulmonary artery. She went in for her heart surgery on January 12th, 1965. She went to Worrell Infant School, Greenwood Junior School, World Comprehensive School, and Broad Oak Sixth Form Center, where she was the head girl, and finished her A-levels. I don't know what that means exactly. Something British. I'd like to apologize. My dog is going to be chewing on a bone while I do this video. I'd tell him no, but I like that they're in my room hanging out with me, so... Then she went on to study journalism at Cardiff Metropolitan University. She appeared in plays at the Barnfield Theatre and volunteered at Sunshine Hospital Radio in Weston-super-Mare in 1979. Jill was a trainee reporter for the weekly newspaper, the Weston Mercury, where both her dad and brother worked. She was a print journalist for 5 years and then moved on to work for BBC, where she was a newsreader for BBC Radio Devon in 1985. That same year, she transferred to BBC Southwest and presented a regional news magazine program, Spotlight Southwest. Jill did a lot of different segments and shows for the BBC until her death in 1999. From 1989 to 1996, she dated BBC executive Bob Wheaton, which I thought his name sounded really familiar, but I had a hard time finding any photos of him. So that was a bummer, but I don't know, maybe it's just one of those names that you think you know. She had a brief relationship with park warden Simon Basil. In December of 1997, Jill met a gynecologist, Alan Farthing, on a blind date set up by a mutual friend of theirs. Alan was separated from his wife at the time of meeting Jill, and a couple months after Alan and his wife's divorce was finalized, he and Jill announced their engagement on January 31st, 1999, and they planned their wedding to happen on September 25th. On the morning of April 26, 1999, Jill left Alan's home in Chiswick. She was 37 years old at this time. She went home after leaving Alan's. Her house was in Fulham, which is roughly 51 minutes away. She didn't spend a lot of time at her house. She stayed at Alan's most of the time. When she reached her front door at about 11:32, Jill Dando was shot once in the head. Her body was found 14 minutes later by her neighbor, Helen Noble. Police were called at 11:47. Jill was taken to the nearby Charing Cross Hospital, where she was declared dead on arrival at 1:03 p.m. As Dando was about to put her keys in the lock to open the front door of her home in Fulham, she was grabbed from behind. With his right arm, the assailant held her and forced her to the ground so that her face was almost touching the tiled step of the porch. Then, with his left hand, he fired a single shot at her left temple, killing her instantly. The bullet entered her head just above her ear, parallel to the ground, and it came out the right side of her head, according to Bob Woofenden of The Guardian. This was reported on July 2002. Jill had been shot by a 9mm short caliber semi-automatic pistol that was pressed against her head when it went off. A neighbor, Richard Hughes, heard a scream but never heard a gun go off. Richard looked out his window and witnessed the only sighting of the murderer, a 6-foot-tall white man around 40 years old. There was an investigation of the murder, but nothing came of it for over a year. Within 6 months, the investigation team spoke to more than 2,500 people and took about 1,000 statements. The team narrowed their attention on Gary George, who lived about a half mile from Jill's house. He was known to stalk women and had sexual offenses and other antisocial and attention-seeking behaviors. They put him on surveillance and ended up arresting him on May 25th of 2000 and charged him with Jill's murder on May 28th. He was tried, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison on July 2nd, 2001. 2 appeals had been submitted since the case seemed to be too thin. They didn't have enough evidence to prove that he had done it. Both appeals had been unsuccessful, but George had a 3rd appeal in November of 2007 that was successful. A second trial took place and lasted for 8 weeks. It ended with George's acquittal on August 1st of 2008. Lines of inquiry explored in the police investigation were theories that a jealous ex-boyfriend or an unknown lover had killed Jill. This was quickly ruled out by the detectives who interviewed all of Jill's friends and acquaintances and checked her phone calls. A belief that somebody had hired an assassin to murder Jill as revenge for their being convicted as a result of evidence garnered by Crime Watch viewers. After exhaustive inquiries, this was also ruled out by detectives. Various theories relating to the Bosnian Serb or Yugoslav groups in retaliation for NATO actions against media outlets and their appeals for aid during the Yugoslav wars. The possibility that a deranged fan may have killed Jill after she had rejected his approaches. Jill's brother Nigel informed detectives that she had become concerned by some guy pestering her in the few days before her death, but this was ruled out by detectives. A case of mistaken identity. This was judged unlikely given that the killing took place on the doorstep of Jill's own home. Following the Jimmy Savile sexual abuse scandal, a claim was made that Jill had investigated a pedophile ring at the BBC during the mid-1990s and had handed a dossier containing her findings to BBC management, purportedly prompting a revenge attack. The BBC said that it had seen no evidence to support the claim. Actions taken by a professional rival or business partner also had to be considered. Her agent, John Roseman, stated that he had been interviewed as a suspect by police. So police really did think that this was a murderer for hire type situation, but nothing ever came of it. In 2019, it was reported that the British National Criminal Intelligence Service had given intelligence report to Jill's murder, claiming that the murder was in retaliation for the RTS bombing in Arkan, who was a Serbian warlord who by this time had already died. By 2012, he had already passed away. Had ordered the killing. There was a possible connection between the bullet used to kill Jill and bullets used in the assassinations in Germany. Mostly handmade markings found on them. That's what connected the two to possibly being connected. There was another journalist who was assassinated outside his home in Belgrade, which is Serbia's capital and also their largest city, just a few days before Jill had been murdered, and the method of killing was the exact same in both cases. But as of now, there have been no new arrests in the murder of Jill Dando, and that is where, unfortunately, our case ends. I think it's really sad that her family has gotten absolutely no answers. The only thing that I can imagine that would make them feel some sort of peace is that it doesn't sound like Jill suffered, that she passed away right away. So thankfully she wasn't tortured or anything horrific like that. However, it is still incredibly sad that she died at all, and the fact that they don't know who did it is amazing, honestly. It doesn't sound like there was any camera surveillance around the area, so they have no cameras to look back on, and this is where it all ends for Jill Dando. I Don't know if you guys all like the cold cases, but I will throw in a few here and there for those of you that do. However, if you guys have cases that you would like me to research and briefly report on, make a video of, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you want to, but if not, I totally understand. And I think after this video, I will be doing more spooky, unexplained cases that really have people confused as to what actually happened, just because we're in the month of October, and with it being Halloween and stuff, that seems kind of fitting. So be on the lookout for those videos. That is it for me today. Like I said, my next video will be up tomorrow, which is Friday. So until then, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow if you choose to come back. Bye guys. Sound sync now. Who by this time had already... GoPro, stop recording.